Hello, I'm Bob Ganzak, and this is MotivationU the Podcast. Welcome to MotivationU the Podcast. My name is Bob Ganzak, coming to you live from Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, right here at Celebration Point. We're in the Coach's Podcast room. I'll be introducing you to my guest here in a moment. I want to start with talking about a couple of things. I had an experience over the last couple of weeks of meeting an individual who I had this conversation with, and I got to use some Dale Carnegie principles, especially the principle, the only way to get the best of an argument is to avoid it, because I could have really gotten into an argument with this individual. This person was just talking about religion, and really, how much better they were than anybody else around them because of their religious beliefs. And it was like really amazing to listen to this person. Well, that would be one thing if they weren't throwing in racial slurs and ethnic jokes along the way. And to me, that's a little bit of a illegal mixture, maybe, maybe it's not something that should be done. And as I listened to the person and I engaged in the conversation, the arrogance just continued to pour out because they were better than other people that had other religions. And I was sure, I'm a Catholic. I was brought up in a Catholic church. I was an altar boy. I went to a Catholic grade school, a Jesuit college. It's been a big part of my life. Do I go every Sunday? No, I don't. Yet, I'm comfortable with where I am with my religion. Yet, it doesn't mean that somebody else is better or not as good as me because of what I do. And it got me to thinking this. As this person was talking about that, I thought to myself, like I've known some atheist individuals. I have a friend who's atheist, name is Terry. He's extremely involved in the community, doesn't cuss, donates his time, his talents, his family to helping people improve their lives, spends a lot of time at the soup kitchen, helping and volunteering. And I'm thinking to myself, when God is welcoming people into his world, isn't that the type of person that we want to be around, rather than the person that finds critiques in everybody else and judges everybody else because of the color of their skin or their education or their ethnic background? And those things just really grind me. Now, why do I bring that up? Well, a couple of reasons. One being, in leadership, leaders do that often too. Because they can. Like in this person that I'm talking about's life, they can sin all week long, but because they go to church on Sunday, they're forgiven. And they can do that time and time again. I was mentioning earlier that I played sports a lot. I had a lot of teammates, and they were always welcome at our house. And they would usually come over like on a Sunday. My mom cooked a big breakfast and then everybody was there and they would stop by. But there were some individuals that did not do well during the week or treated other people poorly. And my dad, being the nice guy he was, still would tell them, I'd rather not have you come over to our house anymore. That's an interesting take, an analogy. But leaders do that. Leaders use their position, their title, their income as sometimes like a paddle to hit other people with. And I've noticed too often that some people use their religious background in that way too. They said about Vin Scully, who passed away just recently, a couple of days ago, that you never would know what his political side was, what his religious side was, because it was always about the sports. It was always about the sport, and he never talked about that. I've had, I don't know, Evan, I've had 30, 40 guests on this show so far, maybe 30, 35, maybe someplace in there. I have no idea what any of their religious or political beliefs are, because it's all about humans. It's all about leadership, and it's all about people. And when we start judging others, then that's wrong. Anyways, that's my 2 cents for this moment. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to say that. And now I'd love to introduce to you my guest for today, Tammy Nguyen. Tammy, well, we'll get into how I met you, but Tammy, right. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on your show, Bob. I'm very excited. I'm usually behind the camera doing clicking little buttons, but it's a new feeling. It's exciting to be in front of here talking to you.
So how did you were an intern here at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill doing work for Make It Happen Marketing, Freddie Weeby's company, and
yes.
Working with Evan. Mm-hmm. How did you get to that role?
So my sister-in-law, she's a manager here at Spurrier's, and I just had recently graduated college, and I just needed to kind of get my foot in the door and get some experience. So she was able to connect me with Freddie, and I'm very lucky and grateful for that opportunity. And Freddie took a chance on me. He looked at my resume, and he's like, you have a lot of things on here. I don't know what you can do, but let's try it out. So he paired me up with Evan, and I had a lot of things to learn. I literally have a notebook filled with pages and pages of notes, and so here we are. I'm sitting here, and now I have the opportunity to talk to you because of me sitting there. So great chain of events. And
so Tammy's been my producer for the last couple of weeks as an intern, and Evan has coached her, and you interact with the person that sits in that chair that's like right over there. You interact with that person a lot, and you have these conversations. And so I ask a lot of questions. It's not anything that people don't realize. I just ask a lot of questions.
Right.
And one of the things that I asked Tammy was, have you ever thought about, being on the other side of the camera? No, I like this is. And the more I got to know her, I said, you know what? She belongs on this side of the camera, She just has that charisma, that thing that entices people to want to watch. So, as I said to you earlier, there's meaning behind your thoughts and your words. It's not just throwing things out there. So where did you develop that skill?
To be honest, Bob, I didn't know I had that sort of charisma to me, so I couldn't give you a straightforward answer. I'm not a big talker. I don't talk all too much. I am usually an observer. So if I have anything to say, I'll try to have it pretty thought out, or it means something to me so that enough for me to say it. But for the most part, I think that's where it comes from, just being an observer more so.
It's interesting you say that. I write in a journal on my computer
That's awesome.
all the time. I try to do it every day, and I've got a pretty good streak going. You know, it's
Awesome.
one of
Yeah,
my
journaling
favorite
is
sayings
great.
is, and Evan has heard me say this 100 times. You can't say you did it every day unless you do it every day, right?
Right, yes.
That's been my mantra for probably 10, 15, 20 years is you can't say you did it every day unless you do it every day,
I
right?
mean, that's one way to motivate you.
Yeah. So you said that, how did you say that? You like to observe?
Yes, I kind of like to soak in like my environment before I, try to like step into it.
So
I'm timid.
I was kind of writing in my journal about where I see myself and what my role in this world is. And one of the things that I love to do is give the quiet one a voice. The unseen, help them be seen as much as they want to be or would like to be.
Okay.
Take that individual that has always hidden the shadows because of some fears and give them the confidence to step out into the open and be able to voice their opinion. That's what
awesome.
I do. That's my desire. That's not always what I do. I try to do that. That's my goal. And one of the things that I was writing about was social media, because a lot of people use social media to hurt others. And I get so fed up with it sometimes when I see these words. Yet then if you turn around and see it from the other point of view, if it gives one person the opportunity to voice their opinion,
Yeah.
isn't that growth?
Yes,
So
yeah.
I'm so glad that you're in front of the camera, because that fits with what my goals in life are to take people that like to sit in the back and observe, but their voice should be heard, and give them the opportunity to be heard, and then help them build the confidence to want to continue to do it.
Well, thank you so much. I think you did a great job at that, because never in a million years would I have volunteered to be in front of the camera. But I think it's very hard to say no to you, especially when you're like, Tammy, do you want to be in front of the camera? Do you want to be my guest next week? And I was like, I guess do I have a choice? I think it was an opportunity that I needed to take, and I'm glad that you presented that to me. But with social media, I definitely agree. It's a huge and very powerful tool that with a lot of power comes like great responsibility.
Yes.
So like I don't think a lot of people are ready to like or know how to use that. And yes, it can be harmful in some ways, but I do believe that people can do great things with it, like your podcast, your shows, and spreading good word. But yeah, I definitely agree.
Keyboard confidence,
Yeah.
some people hide behind that keyboard. Evan's trying to check out why the lights went out in here, and I'm going to call out one of my students, somebody that won the highest award of achievement in the last Dale Carnegie class here in Gainesville. Josh flipped some switches over there and turned the lights out. So you go find Josh, and Josh Vaughn will tell you, I turned the wrong switch off. But back to that. I think some people, they hide behind that. Yet we have got to encourage them. They have something they want to say. They've never been taught, or they haven't absorbed what they've been taught on how to treat people correctly. And they're trying to get their message out, and they use sarcasm or hurtful words to draw attention to themselves. It's another way of bullying.
Right.
The bully in the grade school was usually the most insecure person that was there. So,
Right.
and I think that, and we call it cyberbullying. Yet even just the little nuances, sometimes I feel that if we could help those people focus their thoughts in a positive way.
Like a healthy outlet, like to express their feelings.
Right. That's what they're trying to do, I think,
Right.
in many cases, or they're, maybe they aren't highly thought of in their realm of friends, but yet they can, score a point with somebody
Right.
here.
I mean, I think that can happen very much so in person as well. Like people who are maybe like passive aggressive. Like I don't think they really mean to be maybe rude or snippy in those moments, but it's just like the only way that they know how to deal with that situation. So like maybe hindsight, they look back and they're like, maybe that wasn't the best way to deal with that situation. But you know, like that's how they were almost wired to, and that's like the only way that they know. So yes, with cyberbullies, obviously not trying to validate like the harm, but I think I can see why it happens the way it does and unfolds. Yeah.
We're speaking with Tammy Nguyen. Tammy is an intern here at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, working inside the podcast room, helping people with their podcasts and enjoying it. Just a delightful individual. And where'd you go to college?
So I attended the University of Central Florida, and I just graduated this past spring. So
And your degree is in?
radio television, yes, video production track.
And that's how we connected. I mean,
Yes,
I spent 30
yeah.
years in the broadcast industry, and we started talking about that. And
Yes.
What are some of the things, what were some of the classes that really jumped out at you in your radio broadcasting
I think
education?
one was studio class, and very small chance that maybe my professor Dylan Yons is watching, but if he is, shout out, and Professor Shaw as well. Those were probably like the two most influential like professors I've ever had. Like, I love them.
Why?
So why? Just because like I think studio class was not something that I was interested in. Like that's like live broadcasting and something like and such. So I was never interested in that. And I think because the professor, like the way that his manner, the way he taught, it wasn't. He was forgiving. Like there were a lot of like rooms for mistakes because we were obviously students, and I loved the way that he taught and made us feel like we could always grow. It was like our mistakes never like hindered us in any way. And then Professor Shaw, I think this was video production was not my main track. It was actually orthodontics. So video production was something that I was very nervous getting into because I didn't know if it was the right fit or if it was like a last minute like decision, like just to grasp onto like any major. But I think because he affirmed me and reassured me in those ways that I had potential, it made me like I guess reassured. And
that's
he was a
good.
great professor. Also, very knowledgeable.
So it built confidence in you that you could make this happen.
Yes, 100%.
Did I hear that right? Orthodontics or video production?
Yes, 100%.
What is
you
the
heard that right.
bridge that goes between those two places? How do you get from one to the other?
So yes, those are very different. I know a lot of people are like, whoa, how are those two connected, just like you are right now? When I was younger, I had very crooked teeth. It was one of my biggest insecurities. So in middle school, when I saw my friends have braces and take them off, I was just so fascinated. I loved it. They had beautiful teeth, beautiful smiles. And that kind of sparked something inside of me. So I was like, oh, maybe I really want to be an orthodontist. Like, I love seeing people smile and making beautiful smiles. Like, why not? So I even wrote my college essay, like, about orthodontics and my passion for it.
Wow.
So, yeah, like, I tried it out. And then freshman year, I had an assignment where we had to interview anyone we wanted. So I was like, well, this might be a good time to interview my orthodontist to learn more about the field and whatnot. And so this was kind of a harsh realization kind of moment where he was like, hi, Tammy, how are you doing? And I'm like, I'm doing great. He's like, so I hear you want to be an orthodontist. And I was like, yeah, I'm like very inspired by your work and I just love everything about it. And he's like, okay, what's your GPA? We started getting a little personal and I was like, right now it's like a 3.8. And he's like, okay, well, Tammy, I'm going to be really honest with you. That's going to get you in probably some very mediocre schools at most. So right then and there, I started panicking, and I was like, this is not it. Like, this is not for me anymore. I don't know if I can do it.
That orthodontist needs a Dale Carnegie class because he could have handled that a lot better. Why not encourage the person to grow rather than tell them that they can't go any further than that, you know?
Yeah, I mean, but I am where I am because of that very moment. It was
Wow.
a big turning
A
moment.
defining moment in your
It
life.
It was. So probably the day after, I went to the counselor, like, counselor's office, and I was like, I'm doing a major change.
Wow.
And he's like, okay, well, is there anything else that you're interested in? And I was like, I haven't had a clue. I thought this was my passion. I thought this was my track. And he's like, well, do you have any hobbies that you like? And I was like, well, I do a little bit YouTube on the side here and there. So he's like, okay, video production. Let's put you into radio, television, and see how you like it. So
Wow.
from there, that
What a
that was
shift.
that. Yeah, big
What a shift.
Yeah.
Did you get to engage in any journalism classes or?
Yes, I did. So in my studio class, I had to do every Friday this program called the Nightly News. And that's where the journalism student, like the other side of the major, worked with us, the production team. And they did their news, they did their research, and we ran their show for them. Like, so it was a cool
meshing
operating,
together.
yeah, operation. So it was very cool.
What are your thoughts on today's modern day journalist? I know, I mean, you just graduated from college, so if I did the math, you know, you might have been born in this century.
Yes.
And I was born in a previous century.
Yeah.
And journalism has changed from when, you know, the Walter Cronkites and the Edward Murrows of the world were alive. It's now more of a Hollywood fashion show.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on all of that?
And
it's okay if you can tell me what you think.
Okay. No worries. I won't hold anything back. But I think because journalism is a very cutthroat profession, you have to be very good and very passionate, and sometimes you have to like shove elbows to get, you know, that story that lands you the big job or position that you want. I think it's very hard to be ethical sometimes or truthful because, you know, you got to do what you got to do sometimes, like I said. But working with the journalism students, obviously we were in, you know, like a facilitated like environment where we wanted to be as truthful as possible. So we had professors kind of regulating like those stories and almost like PBS. Like we wanted to be as factual as possible, like just strictly facts.
But isn't that what it should be?
Yes. Yes, 100%. I think so. But personally, I try to stay out of news as much as possible sometimes. I know that sounds maybe like a little ignorant, but just with everything that's going on, it can be very overwhelming for me sometimes.
Yeah, I don't watch it.
Yes, okay.
I don't listen.
Okay.
You know.
All right. So, yeah, same here. There's like obviously main headliners, and you know, you kind of take it in, you try to make everything out of it, but I take what I see with a grain of salt. But yeah, like I know a lot of people who do consume the news. I was talking to my brother about this like the other week, and if you're a very opinionated person, it can make you very upset, like reading the news every day, but you know, if you don't have control over it, it can make you more upset. And I think like consuming the news can cause this very like vicious cycle of just like
Yeah, that's an interesting take,
Yeah.
Tammy. If you're say that again. If you're a very opinionated person,
yes,
it can
it can cause a very vicious cycle, like of not having the control or power to do anything, but you're also upset at the same time because obviously it stirs up a lot of emotions. So
That's interesting. I
yeah,
like that.
I try to stay out of it.
Because the other side of that too is I see it with the insecure person, where it really has a negative effect on them from a couple of reasons. One of my observations is if the insecure gets extremely worried because they feel like the world is out of their control at all, and being insecure, they're always being bombarded by things, and here that's another bombardment. Also, to also look at it from that insecure standpoint, gaining that knowledge that reinforces their maybe over the top political views, having that reinforced gives them power.
Yes,
You know,
in a way.
it
Gives them a standing, somewhere
yeah.
like to belong. Yeah.
which,
Yeah.
but it's a false prophet. I mean, you're standing up there on a house of cards, and eventually you're going to tumble down.
Right.
You know, so that, it's really. I wish we could get back to honesty rather than the Hollywood show. And the other thing that grinds me, and maybe we can talk about this after our break, but the other thing that grinds me about it is people don't realize in journalism today that every word that is said is vetted, is highly talked about. Is it the proper word to say at that time? Why do you think our president reads strictly, from a machine that tells him what to say? Because copywriters have written those words to get a reaction. The most brilliant minds that we have in your world are in Hollywood, and they're hiring these people now to be news producers. Because they're able to put together, words and sentences that get an impact.
Right.
And what is the ultimate? The ultimate view is not to give you the truth. The ultimate view is
To get something out of you. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
Ratings.
Their goals have probably shifted.
Billions and billions of dollars. The news industry is today.
Yes.
Billions of dollars being fought on over who watches you. And so we have to put the prettiest faces, the nicest clothes, and the most incredible put together production in order to get those
Right.
viewers. To me, that's just the antithesis of what it should be,
100%. Yeah.
And I don't know how we got there. Anyways, we'll discuss that. Other things. Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Tampa, so more specifically Safety Harbor, Clearwater area, and I was born in St. Pete. Yeah.
Okay, so as a little kid, we started going to Clearwater Beach when I was probably 5 or 6.
Oh, okay.
My grandparents, one of the old hotels, the only old of the hotels that are still there, is the Traveler,
Okay.
408 East Shore Drive. Wow, I remember it. Okay, so when you go when you come over the bridge, you go down the causeway, come over the bridge in Clearwater Beach, one of the first streets on the right
Okay.
is East Shore Drive.
Okay. Wow.
Goes along the canal, and there's a little hotel right there, 12 units. Yeah, and Big Pier 60 wasn't what it is today. It was completely different. But
Yes.
we'll chat about that when we come back from the
Okay.
break, all right?
Sounds good.
We're coming to you live from Spurrier's Gridiron Grill here at Celebration Point. My name is Bob Ganzak. This is Tammy Nguyen, and this is Motivation You, the podcast.
We still hear it. The sound of victory. The joy of being part of something great. And while things may not be the same right now, we haven't gone anywhere. If you bleed orange and blue, then Meldon Law is the firm for you.
On August 11th, our restaurant Spurrier's Gridiron Grill will be celebrating our one-year anniversary, and we're inviting you to Celebration Point. Proceeds from the event will go to the Ronald McDonald House, and we'll have a spread of your favorite Spurrier dishes, as well as special guests, but you have to get a reservation. So go to spurriers.com right now and reserve your spot before it sells out. And thank you for a super first year. Go Gators!
For more reasons to celebrate? We have them here at Celebration Point. Enjoy some of the newest additions to our already celebratory lineup, like Dave & Buster's, Les Macarons, and Prime and Pearl. There's always a reason to celebrate. Join us anytime for any occasion. Celebration Point, where Gators come to celebrate.
Welcome back. My name is Bob Ganzak, and this is MotivationU the Podcast. Today, our guest is Tammy Nguyen. Welcome, Tammy. We were just commenting on the Dale Carnegie commercial there and how well you like the graphics.
Yes.
Good stuff,
yes.
isn't it?
Very good visuals and graphics. I like it.
I don't remember. I think it was in Orlando a few years ago. We were at a convention, and they had brought the marketing team in, and they said if anybody wants to stay over, they would take pictures and videos and different things. So many of those people that you're seeing are franchisees or employees of Dale Carnegie and Associates, or employees of franchises.
Oh, that's awesome.
So it's like when I look at it, I see friends of mine,
That's cool.
in the thing, which is really neat. I had to, that weekend, I'd go back to do a program in Valdosta, so I didn't get a chance to stay, but they wouldn't want this mug anyways on their commercials. So we were talking about Clearwater and where you grew up. Did you actually grow up in Clearwater Beach, or?
Not the actual beach. So Safety Harbor is more inwards. It's by the bay, Tampa Bay. So, but I visited Clearwater, I had my fair share. But I think growing up, it's a very tourist packed area. Like everyone knows of Clearwater Beach. It's very heavily populated, especially during the warmer seasons. So I've found my own little beach down from Clearwater. It's called Indian Rock, so it's a little more quiet.
I love Indian Rocks. Yes,
so
yes.
It's a little bit more quiet and nice. So but Clearwater's a lot of fun too because they have all the shops and that main road and a lot of restaurants that you can go to. So it's always nice. My
mom, if she was alive, would shoot me right now for not remembering Mandalay Boulevard.
Oh, okay.
Is what that road is that all those shops are on and everything.
Yeah.
So I'll give you some images from early 1960s, mid 1960s Clearwater that pop into my mind. We used to go down towards, there was, the highways were not there. Okay, so it took forever to get from Clearwater down to Indian Rocks Beach, and there was a restaurant we used to go to once. It was all you can eat. It was like Treasure something. I can't remember what the name of it was, but that was my dad would take us all out for one big meal. Big Pier 60.
Okay.
It was not what it is today, and the beach wasn't all built up the way it was. I mean, it was just an old pier. And at the end of the pier, they didn't charge to get out there. like they do now. At the end of the pier, it was a double decker. There was two. You go upstairs or stay downstairs, and they used to fish for shark. And the way they did it was amazing to me. Is they would take like a cardboard box, put their bait in it, and the cardboard box had a rope attached to it. So they would let the tide drift it out, and when it got out far enough, inside it also was their bait. So they had chum in it and their bait.
Okay.
And when it got out far enough, they would pull the rope, which would dump the box, and the chum and the bait would go down at the same time.
Okay.
So I was like 7, 8, 9 years old. There was no problems with worrying about kids going to the pier and, being stolen or anything like that at the time. My dad would be back at the hotel, and if somebody hooked a shark, I would run all the way back to the hotel and tell my dad, and then we would run together to watch him bring it in, because it took him hours, right, to bring in those big sharks.
Right.
So that's something I remember from that time. I loved Clearwater Beach. I mean, it still is to this day. What is it? The Tornadoes, the high school.
Clearwater High School.
Because when you would come in on the causeway off to the left,
It's Gulf to Bay. Yes, Gulf to Bay is like the main road
Gulf
that you
to
go
Bay, yep.
straight down into the causeway. Yeah.
over on the side was they had a big logo with the tornado.
Yes, yes. I don't think it's a spinning. Were you saying it was spinning, or you're just trying to like say tornado?
Yeah, I'm just,
okay.
yeah,
I thought you meant like a spinning sign. I was like, oh, they don't have that anymore.
No. I think their logo
Yes, it was a tornado.
So
Yes,
yeah,
yeah.
which that's what I was trying to show that.
Visually, yes.
I love that area. What was it like growing up there? Because you had the tourists, and then you had to create your own world also.
Right. Well, I think I didn't get too much like of that tourist ambiance unless I was really in Clearwater Beach. But other than that, it felt like you're a normal small town, suburban, like city. I honestly love the location. Like looking back, being able to live in Orlando, now Gainesville. Safety Harbor is just so different. It's so quaint, and you're in the middle of everything. You have Tampa, like you go over the causeway, and you're in the city, or you have the beach. And I was like 15 minutes away from everything, maybe 20 minutes max. So yeah, it was very nice and quiet. And my church was like probably 10 minutes down the road, and you just know almost everyone, and everyone knows everyone in the city. So it's like something that you would watch in a movie or a show, and it's just like a cute little town.
That little, from like Sarasota to, I don't know if you would go as high as Homosassa Springs, or maybe a little bit further south of that. That little area right there is just like so cool, I love going down to Sarasota.
Okay.
And, just, what is it? Armand Circle. What is the downtown area?
Oh, you have me lost. I don't
in
go down to
Sarasota.
Sarasota too often.
You gotta go down there and just enjoy that. It's just, and Longboat Key, Bradenton, that whole area. I like that. Although I spent more time in the St. Pete, Tampa, Clearwater, that part of the world.
Yeah. Well, see, I have like aunts and uncles that live sort of in Sarasota, like the outskirts of Sarasota. It's, I think, Palmetto. I think it's what it's called. So occasionally we'll visit them, but it's a far drive, but they make the drive up every single weekend, almost every single weekend, to see us and like just spend time with family. But yeah, they're pretty close family, but they just live so far, but they make the drive. So
that's far.
Yeah. What is it? Almost an hour, like 45 minutes. So,
it just feels like that,
yeah,
right?
just because. Well, that's one thing, because like my mom's side of the family, we all live in Safety Harbor, and she has, I think, a total of maybe 8 siblings. Wow. So yeah, like we all live probably 15 minutes away.
You
from
got
each
aunts,
other.
uncles, and cousins running all around. Yeah.
Yes, 100%. I have 2 cousins that live a mile down the road from me, and they're like my aunt and my uncle, their mom and dad, they're like a second set of parents to me. They always watched me growing up whenever my parents needed help. And my 2 cousins are like sisters to me. So we
Wow,
grew
that's
up with
cool.
each other. So it was, yeah.
Let me
very
throw you a
nice.
curveball here a little bit. Leadership. This program is about leadership. It's recognizing people for their skills or development, or where they're going in their leadership journey. Growing up in a smaller town with a lot of close family, what have been the influences on your leadership thoughts?
So oddly enough, I feel like in my family, I guess just being the second oldest child, I just had to have like good manners and be a good influence and set good examples for my cousins, my younger cousins. My older brother, like he was the oldest out of everyone. All that responsibility kind of fell on him. So I got to escape that a little bit. But yeah, when my brother went off to college and did his own thing, it kind of fell into me. I was like the first one to graduate, so I guess with my family, it's they kind of have like a very like set expectations. You should be this way, you should do this as your job, this is your profession, this is how you should act. Very strict rules. So I think just like abiding to that and just kind of like setting an example. But
Is that an ethnic thing that is built into the culture, or is that something that your family these are mom and dad's rules?
I think a mix of both. So my parents, they immigrated from Vietnam. So like I think with that immigrant parent like mindset and just being like the first to start up, I think they wanted the best for my brother and I. So I think with like being like a doctor, like wanting a good job, I think those are pretty typical. Like they just want us to have a good job and good profession, good life. But I think the one thing that impacted me the most with like their rules and stuff was they were very strict on like sleepovers or hanging out with friends, curfew. Like to this day, I'm almost 23. I think like my parents would still expect me to be back around like 9 o'clock the latest. So
You come home.
yes, you need to be home. Like what are you doing out like late, like that late, like, and it was difficult like growing up in high school because like your friends wanted to have like a bonfire on the beach or like maybe up to like 11 o'clock. And they're like, no, what are you doing at the beach at 11 o'clock? Like, that's not safe.
Nothing good happens there.
Exactly.
After.
So they were very overprotective. They tried to shelter me in a lot of ways, which, I think hindered me in like a little bit of like ways. But I know they were trying to look out for me and they wanted the best for me. They wanted to protect me. I found my own way. I'm good. I'm a good person, I would say now. So I mean, nothing bad like that they did, but
It's
but
interesting,
sorry.
Tammy.
Yes.
It's interesting. Professor Shaw, right? Did I get his name right?
Yes.
And your orthodontist. Two individuals that had an influence on your life. And think of that from a leadership standpoint. What were the traits of the one and what were the traits of the other? Which one pushed you to want to do something and which one pushed you away of want to doing something?
Very interesting. Well, obviously I was going to say they both pushed me into the direction, although one pushed me away onto a different track, and then Professor Shaw, like he pushed me further into that track. So they both guided me in the right direction, I think. So obviously my orthodontist, my doctor, I know he didn't know what kind of influence he had at that point when he was saying that kind of stuff to me, but like I respect him still. Like I know that it came from his best interest. He was just being honest, being blunt. So I don't know. Like I know that can seem a little harsh, but I think looking back, hindsight, things were supposed to happen that way. I think he pushed me on the right track because I am where I am. I ended up where I was supposed to be. So, and Dr. Shaw, yeah, he always encouraged me, even though I have to say, like, some of my work, it was atrocious. It was,
Gotta start somewhere.
I know I had to start somewhere, but there was at this one point where it was the very last assignment, and I know I could have done so much better, but it it was awful. It was like our demo reel, and I literally had 3 videos, and it ended abruptly, and he was like, okay, it wasn't bad. And I was like, really?
That was interesting, right?
Yeah. And what I should have deserved in that moment was, Tammy, I was expecting more. You could have done better. But he never steered me, and like he never discouraged me, and I appreciate that a lot.
Those are interesting.
Yes.
You know, you said something that the orthodontist didn't know what he was doing.
What kind of influence he had. Yeah.
Influence, and like that little issue that I talked about at the beginning of the show about the person with the religious views, is a lot of times we will say things or have discussions, and we don't know what the residue is that we leave with that person. You know?
Right.
And like sometimes, like that individual may have walked away from the conversation with me and said, "Wow, you know, I really showed him what the world was about, and
Right.
you know, I got my point across." Yet, wow, the negative impact that he left on me is incredible. Whereas your orthodontist, didn't know. You know, I helped that person because you're Tammy. You took that and grew from it. Some other person could have been totally shut down by it and never would have gone on to anything different. They may have dropped out of school.
Right.
You know?
Right. Well, I mean, that makes it sound, you know, not glamorous, but it sounds like I picked myself right back up. I'm going to be honest, like, I mean, like, I cried, I had a little crisis, I was like, what do I do? But, I mean, with the help of my, like, counselor, he definitely, like, helped me. Is it called a counselor? Advisor, yes, that's what it is. I was like, this sounds wrong, it sounds, but, yeah, I did struggle, but it was a good struggle. It was something that I needed, so.
Tell me about growing up, education. Where did you go to school? What schools did you go to? And
Okay, so elementary school, it was a public school, like right down the road. And then after that, I went to a private middle school, Espiritu Santo. And then after that, I kind of wanted to follow in my brother's footsteps and go to Palm Harbor High School because they had a medical program. But because it wasn't in my zone, that high school wasn't in like the zoned area that I was living in, I had to apply for that program. And unfortunately, I was on the wait list. It was funny because like I was number 54. I'll never forget that number. I was trying to make so many like, oh, you know, like, I like the number 6. I like the number 9. 6 times 9 equals 54. That could work. That could just be like a combination of my 2 lucky numbers. But like we were waiting and waiting, and it didn't seem like I was going to make it in time. So I ended up just going to my local public high school, Countryside, for 1 year. And I struggled mentally that year. I didn't realize I was struggling that bad, but I guess to my family, they were very concerned about me, and they thought at the time that it was best if they kind of moved me into an environment that could nurture me a little bit more, or was more similar to my middle school. So they transferred me to Clearwater Central Catholic. So
what was that journey like? You know, changing
schools? I mean, I guess it wasn't too bad because everyone from my middle school went to Clearwater Central Catholic. So it was a very familiar situation.
With some of those.
Yes. It didn't feel too much of a shell shock compared to going into my public school, because I only had one best friend. Luckily, she was my best friend, and she went to that public school, so it was still comforting, but that was more of a shock, and it took me longer to kind of acclimate to that sort of environment, because I hadn't, public school and elementary, like that elementary level is completely different than public high school. So it was different.
It sure is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was the opposite. I went to a Catholic grade school, first through sixth, and then went to a public high school.
I see, yes.
So that was the flip. So I got that, the nuns and priests when I was real young, first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, sixth grade type thing. Where you got that more in 10, 11, 12.
Yes,
which, that's, and now my daughter went all the way through. She went to a Catholic grade school, middle school, high school, the whole thing.
Yeah.
Whereas my son started in Catholic school, then went to a public school, and then went to a Lutheran school, St. John's Lutheran in Ocala, which at the time the Catholic school was not built. So their curriculum was encased inside of St. John's Lutheran.
Okay.
So a lot of the Catholic kids went to St. John's Lutheran to get that part of their education.
Were you concerned, like, I don't know, for the religious aspect, were you concerned for that shift, or maybe even in the education, were you...
I was not, because I trusted our Father Pat, who was the pastor of the church, and he's the one that recommended that we do that. So I wasn't concerned about that, because of my faith was in, him. Though when it came out, the two of them, I wish my son would have gotten the opportunity to go to Trinity Catholic. My daughter was the first graduating class for the school. And, he was just 2 years older, so he didn't get that opportunity. It wasn't open when he graduated.
Okay.
So he didn't get that opportunity to go there. I think that would have been cool if he did.
Yeah.
So how did you select your journey to go to UCF?
Again, I tried to follow in my brother's footsteps, because he went to UF for a little bit, and so did my dad. So I just naturally wanted to follow the legacy, but it wasn't in the cards for me, so I didn't get accepted into UF, which is fine. I applied to other schools like FSU, Miami, and I got accepted into those, but they're polar opposites, and my mom's like, that's too far. So obviously, and I didn't want to go to USF because that was too close. So UCF it was a neutral middle ground. So I mean, it's kind of like unexciting, I guess. It's like I sounded, that was my only option, but I'm very glad I ended up where I was supposed to, because with my major change and everything, I think UCF was a lot of a better fit for me than I think UF ever would have been. And especially with, now that I get to live in Gainesville, it's awesome, it's great. And I'm more of a homebody, so it's not
So
like
you actually moved here to Gainesville?
Yes, so I moved in with my brother. And
Permanently you're here?
Yes, well, I don't know how permanent. I hope not too permanent, because I do have other goals outside of Gainesville. But right now, this is my town.
That's
Yeah.
That's neat. I like that.
Yeah.
So going to UCF, what was it like, the environment in Orlando, and Mickey's home and everything
The
else?
Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. Yeah. So going into it, I didn't have any. I felt pretty indifferent towards Orlando. I just, I always thought that's where, what is it? That's where Disney is. So I mean that's all I know. So I don't know. I went there with a pretty open mind. But now that I am not there anymore, I miss it a lot just because, I don't know. I talked to my brother about this past weekend, because this past weekend I just fully moved everything out of my apartment, and it was like the saddest moment ever. I showed Evan like a day or two ago, like my picture when I like moved in, and it was like fully furnished and decorated, and this sad, dark picture of everything, like just my empty apartment. Ooh. Very sad. But anyways, I think I was just very sad. I am very sad because those 4 years, those were my most like fundamental like years of just establishing my independence in adulthood. So obviously, a very like foundational part of me is tied to Orlando. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I get emotional when I talk about it because I just miss it a lot.
You kind of went to the mecca of tourism, like where you were saying you know you were insulated from it in Safety Harbor from the Clearwater Beach unless you went down to the beach. Whereas you're engulfed in it in Orlando.
Yeah, 100%.
Every place you go, there's hardly an escape any place in the city to get away from it.
Yes. So like, yeah, I mean, the school is obviously a little bit more secluded from like, Disney and like iDrive. But if you wanted to do anything fun, you would kind of have to go on that side of town or maybe downtown, and obviously it's packed. So, like I said, I'm kind of a homebody. I like either like going to the gym or like going to the beach. So I would make that drive to go to the beach. I wouldn't try to spend too much time in the city. Just either it was like, unless it was like for a cup of coffee. I love getting coffee somewhere and trying new coffee places. But I mean,
this place is good.
Yes, this place is good. Yeah. Spurrier's.
Spurrier's Gridiron Grill coffee. Ooh, it's awesome.
Yes. So, yeah, there was enough space between, the tourism and UCF. So it wasn't too overwhelming, but I still made do. Like, it wasn't too bad. It wasn't like, tourists everywhere. But, like, it was good.
We have like 2.5 minutes here.
Oh, wow. That conversation went by fast.
I wanted to ask you one question.
Yes.
My thought process is kind of what called simple life, simple solutions. How did you get to where you are and what it was? You said that you hope to go outside of Gainesville. Where do you want to get to, and how do you plan on getting there?
That's a good question. So this is just kind of a spur of the moment thing. This is just for now, but I know that Oregon is very beautiful, and I eventually either want to travel there or end up there. And my goal, profession-wise, is to be working for a media company and with video, just ultimately with video, and either, producing commercials or just any videography for a company. So how would I get there? I don't know. I feel like I'm on the right track. I'm getting experience, and I'm putting myself out there. I'm applying. And with Freddie, like 100%, he's definitely helping me, guiding me in the right direction. And I don't know. I think I'm just getting experience, and then from there, just applying to a location that I want to fit in, and maybe network and get to know more people along the way. But I don't know. We'll see. That's
take my acronym for the word focus.
Okay.
And put it down someplace. Finding opportunities, creating unconditional success.
Okay.
So always be searching. You said you like to observe, so always be searching for those opportunities that will create your success in the future. Just keep on focused on that. And I don't know about you, Evan, but she does a pretty darn good job in front of the camera too. You're very natural. So,
thank you.
Enjoy yourself, and I appreciate you being part of this program.
Thank you.
Being on my podcast.
And I appreciate you having me on here. I'm very thankful for allowing me to take this opportunity and kind of face my fears. It was something I needed.
You did a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much for Evan Miller, our great producer. My name is Bob Ganzak, and this was Motivation You, the podcast.